She built her dream home, brick by brick, and then, without warning, she let it go. Diane Keaton, the woman who turned eccentricity into elegance, made one final move that left even her closest friends stunned. The actress who'd filled decades with laughter, art, and Oscar-winning brilliance had quietly listed her beloved dream home for sale. And just months later, she was gone. For a woman who seemed unstoppable walking her dog through Brentwood every morning, cracking jokes in her trademark hats and gloves, the news felt impossible. How could someone so full of energy, so deeply connected to life, decline so suddenly? Friends say it happened fast, heartbreakingly fast. She declined very suddenly, one source shared. And it was so unexpected, especially for someone with such strength and spirit. Even those who'd known her for years had no idea just how serious things had become. And maybe that was exactly how Diane wanted it. Quiet, graceful, and deeply personal. Because before she left, she made one last decision that said more than any goodbye ever could. But to understand why that choice meant so much, you have to know what that dream home truly represented to her. For more than half a century, Diane Keaton wasn't just an actress, she was an idea. The embodiment of effortless, cool, sharp wit and timeless grace. From The Godfather to Annie Hall, she didn't just play characters, she created archetypes. Women who were quirky yet confident, elegant yet unpredictable. Hollywood loved her for it. And audiences? They saw a piece of themselves in her every smile, every nervous laugh, every perfectly imperfect pause. Her career was a tapestry of reinvention. While others chased trends, Diane made them. The hats, the gloves, the oversized suits, that was her armour. Her signature style became part of her identity, a playful rebellion against the polished perfection of classic Hollywood. She wasn't trying to fit in. She was reminding everyone that authenticity never goes out of fashion. Off-screen, she carried the same spirit. Friends often described her as the life of every room, the one who could turn silence into laughter with a single comment. There was warmth in her eccentricity, a charm that came from being unapologetically herself. And even as the decades passed, she seemed untouched by time. The energy, the humour, the sparkle, they never faded. Diane Keaton had become one of those rare Hollywood figures who seemed eternal. But what the world didn't see was how quietly life had begun to change behind that radiant image. The woman who made millions laugh was facing a battle that few even knew existed. For someone who had always been larger than life, Diane Keaton's final chapter arrived with heartbreaking quiet. Friends say the decline came very suddenly, so sudden that even those closest to her were left stunned and searching for answers. One moment she was walking her dog through the sunny streets of Brentwood, waving to neighbours like she always did. And the next, she was gone. It's hard to imagine Diane, full of wit, charm, and that unstoppable creative spark, growing frail so fast. But that's exactly what happened. According to a close source, her health took a sharp turn in recent months, something no one expected from someone with such strength and spirit. It was heartbreaking for everyone who loved her, the insider told People. She declined very suddenly. It just didn't seem possible. In her final months, Diane was surrounded by only her closest family. The same woman who had lived so openly, who had given so much of herself to the world, chose privacy in her last days. Even longtime friends, the ones who had known her for decades, weren't fully aware of what was happening. That was Diane, fiercely independent until the end, shielding others from worry, keeping her dignity and grace intact. And perhaps that's why her final decision to quietly sell the home she called her forever home carried such haunting meaning. It wasn't just a sale, it was a signal, a silent farewell, written in the language of brick and memory. Diane Keaton wasn't just known for her movies, she was known for her homes. To her, architecture wasn't just about walls and windows, it was about identity. She poured her heart into every detail, every beam, every brick. So when she called her Brentwood estate her dream home, she meant it. She had spent 8 years perfecting it, transforming an ordinary property into a masterpiece of design and soul. Inspired by the childhood fable The Three Little Pigs, Diane said she always wanted a house made of brick, something strong, lasting, and indestructible. In her memoir, The House That Pinterest Built, she wrote about that dream with childlike wonder, saying she knew, even as a little girl, that one day she would live in a brick home. And she made that dream real. With her unmatched eye for style, Diane turned the 5-bedroom, 7-bath home into a living gallery, a blend of rustic charm and Hollywood sophistication. It wasn't just where she lived, it was who she was. Every photo on the wall, every book on the shelf, every beam of light that touched the brick carried her fingerprint. That's why, when she quietly put the house up for sale in March for $29 million, everyone was stunned. For years, Diane had said she planned to stay there permanently. It was supposed to be her forever home, the place where she'd found peace after a lifetime of movement and creativity. But now, looking back, that decision feels different. Like a whisper before a storm, a woman preparing to let go of something even she couldn't explain. And as she closed that chapter, another change was already taking shape. One that revealed just how much her life had begun to slow down. Sometimes, the most emotional goodbyes aren't spoken. They're felt in the stillness, in the absence, in the way someone simply fades from view. For years, Diane Keaton was a familiar face in her Brentwood neighbourhood. Every morning, she'd walk her dog down the same tree-lined streets, her signature hat tilted just right, her sunglasses shielding that knowing smile. She'd stop to chat with neighbours, laugh about the weather, and talk to her dog as if he were an old friend. It was a small ritual that made her larger-than-life fame feel beautifully human. But then, she stopped appearing. The woman who once brought light to every sidewalk suddenly vanished from her daily routine. Neighbours began to notice. The streets felt quieter. The woman in the wide-brimmed hat was nowhere to be seen. A source later revealed that Diane had chosen privacy as her health declined. Those closest to her knew how much she valued solitude, especially when life became heavy. She was surrounded only by her closest family, one insider shared. Even longtime friends weren't fully aware of what was happening. And that's what made her farewell so uniquely her. There was no spectacle, no grand statement, no spotlight. Just quiet dignity, the kind that only someone as self-assured and soulful as Diane could maintain. Selling her dream home, stepping away from public life. It wasn't a retreat, it was a gentle goodbye. A final act of grace from a woman who'd spent her entire life showing the world how to live boldly, and now was teaching it how to leave softly. To the world, Diane Keaton was a mystery wrapped in charm. Always hidden behind oversized sunglasses and that perfectly tilted hat. But to those who knew her, she was warmth itself. Funny, eccentric, and endlessly kind. The kind of person who made everyone around her feel seen. Neighbours remember her as the woman who talked to her dog like he was human. The woman who always stopped to chat no matter how busy she seemed. She'd laugh easily, tease gently, and carry that old Hollywood grace that so few possess anymore. She was very, very special, one source said, and that's exactly how people described her everywhere she went. Diane's quirks were part of her magic. She could mix elegance with absurdity, wisdom with wit, and make it all feel effortless. She wasn't trying to impress, she was simply being. That's what made her timeless. Whether she was standing on a red carpet or walking through Brentwood in her favourite turtleneck, Diane never played the part of a movie star. She was real, grounded, genuine, entirely herself. And maybe that's why her absence hit so hard. Because Diane wasn't just another celebrity. She was a reminder that Hollywood could still produce souls, not just stars. Even in her final months, that energy lingered. Quiet, but present. Hidden behind those dark glasses, there was always a light one that never quite went out. Diane Keaton's legacy isn't measured in box office numbers or golden statues, though she had plenty of both. It's measured in how she made people feel. She didn't just act, she lived out loud, showing that a woman could be powerful without being perfect, funny without apology, and timeless without ever chasing youth. Even in her later years, Diane continued to create. Through her books, photography, and passion for architecture, she taught us that creativity doesn't retire, it evolves. Her brick home wasn't just her dream house, it was a symbol of everything she believed in. Strength, craftsmanship, permanence. She once said she built it because she wanted something that would last, something that couldn't be blown away by time or change. And maybe, in a poetic way, that's what she leaves behind, a lesson about building a life made of stronger things. Not fame, not money, but connection, authenticity, and love. Her quiet decision to sell the home, her retreat from the public eye, her final moments spent surrounded by only those who mattered most, they all point to a woman who had found peace. A woman who, even as her health declined, remained in control of her story. Diane Keaton's final message might not have been written in words, but it's there between the bricks of her house, the pages of her books, and the memories of everyone she ever touched. She showed us that true elegance isn't in being seen, it's in knowing when to step back, smile, and let your legacy speak for you. In the end, Diane Keaton didn't need a farewell tour, a headline, or a final curtain call. Her goodbye was written in silence, in the soft echo of footsteps, that no longer traced the streets of Brentwood, in the for sale sign standing quietly outside her dream home, in the stillness that followed decades of laughter. She lived with style, loved with humour, and left with grace. That was Diane, unpredictable yet steady, eccentric yet grounded, bold yet gentle. Her life was a mosaic of contradictions that somehow made perfect sense. She taught generations that aging isn't something to fear, that solitude isn't loneliness, and that a woman's power only deepens with time. Even as her health failed, she never let the world see weakness, only dignity. She exited the same way she lived, privately, purposefully, and on her own terms. And maybe that's the quiet power of true legends. They don't fade, they transform, leaving pieces of themselves in everything they touched. Her films, her words, her homes, they're all testaments to a woman who built a life out of creativity and courage. And though she's gone, her presence lingers, like sunlight through an open window, warm, gentle, unforgettable. Diane Keaton didn't just teach Hollywood how to dress, speak, or perform. She taught it how to live. And maybe, most beautifully of all, how to let go. What do you think Diane's final chapter says about her life and legacy? Share your thoughts below, and if you'd like to hear more untold stories from Hollywood's brightest souls, make sure to subscribe. Because even in silence, their stories still speak.